The call comes in at 7:14 in the morning, not to you, to your managing director. But you're already at your desk, and the walls here are glass, and you can see him pick up on the second ring and go very still. When a man who manages $2.3 billion in assets goes still, you learn to pay attention. He hangs up. He walks directly to the conference room at the end of the hall. He doesn't take anything with him, not a folder, not a phone, just himself. 20 minutes later, you find out what the call was about. Someone needed $40 million by Thursday, not to sell anything, not to liquidate a position, not to touch a single asset. They needed $40 million, and they needed it by Thursday, and the entire conversation lasted 11 minutes. That is the first time you understand that the game you thought you were learning to play is not actually the game. You were 31 years old. You were good at your job. You have spent 3 years learning how money moves, how it compounds, how it hedges, how it grows across a diversified portfolio of positions you help maintain but do not own. You understand markets, you understand instruments, you understand risk-adjusted return. What you do not yet understand is that the wealthiest people in this country do not think about money the way you do. They do not save it, they do not grow it, they do not protect it the way you protect yours, watching it, worrying about it, checking the balance on a Tuesday night for no reason. They borrow against it. And here is the part that changes the way you see everything. They never actually pay it back. Your managing director explains it to you 3 days later, not because you asked, because he has decided you are ready to understand it. He pulls up a single spreadsheet, 1 page, no color coding, just numbers and a name at the top that you recognize, a family you have seen in the financial press for the last decade. He says, they haven't paid income tax on this position in 19 years. He is not outraged. He is not proud. He is stating a fact the way you state the weather. Here is the structure, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Imagine you own $80 million worth of stock in a company you helped build. If you sell that stock, the IRS shows up immediately. Federal capital gains tax, state tax if you're in California or New York. All in, you could lose 35 to 40 cents of every dollar the moment it becomes liquid. 40 years of building something, and the government takes the first seat at the table. So, you don't sell. Instead, you walk into a private bank, not the branch on the corner, the private banking division on the 43rd floor, and you use that $80 million in stock as collateral for a loan. The bank gives you $50 million in cash. The interest rate is somewhere around 4%. UK interest on $50 million, not taxes on $80 million. That difference alone is worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. You spend the $50 million. You invest it. You buy real estate. You fund a private deal. You live on it, and when the loan comes due, you do not sell the stock to pay it back. You take out a new loan. You use a slightly different asset as collateral. You refinance. You roll the position forward. The stock keeps appreciating. The loan stays manageable. The tax event never arrives. This is called buy, borrow, die. It is not a secret. It is not illegal. It is sitting in plain sight in the tax code, and it has been there for decades. But here is what your managing director says next, and this is the sentence that rewires something in your head permanently. The loan isn't the strategy. The loan is the bridge. The strategy is the estate. When that stock owner dies, their heirs receive the shares at the current market value, not the original purchase price. The original gain, the game that existed for 19 years and was never taxed, is erased. It disappears. The IRS calls this the step-up in cost basis, and it is the legal mechanism that makes the entire structure permanent rather than just deferred. The family never paid tax on the gain. The family never will. And the next generation starts with a clean slate and the same $80 million position, now worth perhaps $300 million, with a brand new cost basis and the same private bank on the 43rd floor waiting to make the next loan. You sit with that for a moment. You are good at your job. You have built models for this firm that track risk across 8 asset classes. You understand compounding at an intellectual level, but you have never truly felt it until right now, sitting in this conference room with one spreadsheet and a man who is not even particularly excited about what he just told you. Because for him, this is just how things work. The room feels different after he closes the laptop. The ultra-wealthy are not playing a game of accumulation. They are playing a game of permanence. The goal is not to make money. The goal is to ensure that the money, once made, is never subjected to the events that reduce everyone else's. lose. No liquidation, no tax event, no forced sale. The asset stays intact, passes forward, and the borrowing against it funds everything that looks, from the outside, like spending. What looks like wealth is often just a very large, very sophisticated credit facility backed by assets that will never be sold in the owner's lifetime. And the people running those facilities, the private bankers, the family office advisors, the estate attorneys who charge $1,200 an hour and are worth every dollar, they are not the wealthy themselves. They are the infrastructure, the architecture, the human equivalent of load-bearing walls. You start to understand what your job actually is. Over the next 18 months, you see 4 versions of this same structure. Each one is slightly different. One family uses a pledged asset line from a bulge bracket bank, keeping $120 million in equities fully intact while drawing down $60 million in liquidity at a rate that moves with SOFR. Another uses an exchange fund, contributing appreciated stock into a pool with other investors, receiving a diversified interest back, and eliminating the concentration risk without ever triggering a taxable sale. A third family, the one that stays with you longest, has a 22% stake in a manufacturing company based outside of Cleveland. They have owned it for 31 years. The original investment was $4 million. The stake is now worth $340 million on paper. They have never sold a share. What they have done is borrow against it 11 times. The debt against the position at any given moment sits around $95 million. The interest payments run approximately $3.8 million per year. Their annual income from the company, distributions, consulting arrangements, board fees, covers the interest with room left over. The $340 million position grows at its own pace. The family lives on the borrowing. The borrowing costs less than the growth. And when the patriarch dies, his children receive the full stepped-up basis, and the private bank sends a very tasteful note of condolence along with a proposal for the next credit arrangement. You do the math one afternoon in October, alone at your desk after everyone else has gone home. If that family had sold the position 31 years ago and paid taxes, they would have walked away with somewhere between $2.8 and $3.1 million after federal and state tax. $3 million. Respectable. Life-changing for most people. Instead, they have a $340 million asset, $95 million in manageable debt, and children who will inherit the entire structure tax-free at the current value. The difference between those two outcomes is not intelligence, it is not risk tolerance, it is not even luck, not entirely. It is the knowledge that there is a different game being played and the access to the people who know how to play it. You close the spreadsheet, the office is empty, the monitors are still on. You think about how you move your own money, the contribution limits, the index funds, the high-yield savings account earning 4.2% that you check on your phone on Sunday mornings. The careful, responsible, structurally sound approach to building something over time. You are doing everything right by the rules you were given. You're just playing the wrong game. The question that follows you home that night, and for many nights after, is not whether you can access the structure. You work inside it now. You understand the mechanics. You know which attorneys to call and which bankers sit on the 43rd floor. The question is what it costs to get here, not financially, the other cost. Your managing director has been doing this for 22 years. He is precise, calm, and exceptionally good at his job. He also has not had a dinner at home on a Tuesday in longer than he can remember, and there is something in the way he closes the conference room door that suggests the precision required to maintain this world leaves very little room for anything unstructured, anything that cannot be planned, anything that simply happens. You notice this, and you file it away, and you continue. Because the other thing you have learned inside this world is that every person who stays in it made a version of the same calculation at some point. They weighed what it cost against what it gave them. They decided the scale tipped one way. And by the time you are close enough to see the scale clearly, you have already been inside the system long enough that the decision does not feel like a decision anymore. It feels like a trajectory. The $40 million loan closed on a Wednesday. The assets stayed exactly where they were. No one on the outside knew it happened. By Thursday morning, the managing director was at his desk before you arrived, which means he was there before 7, which means he had been moving since the dark. You set your badge down on your desk. Somewhere in this building, right now, there is someone on their first week. Their badge still has that chemical printer smell. Their desk is clean. They are learning about markets, about instruments, about risk-adjusted return. They are very good at what they do. They don't know yet what the game actually is.